You just skip over all this shit. Oh, I don't know. This is the best topic. This is the best topic. I mean, I understand what's going on the breakdown, but at the end of the day, this is a topic that we have to talk about. It's more like the people who settle for marriage. Now, I'm a married guy myself, by the way, culturally married, which means I get guarantees out of the situation that I'm in because of the culture that I've married to. You can't get that with black culture. And people think that they're special because they get into a relationship that is not really guaranteed, but they expect all this stuff out of. And it falls apart when they say it's going to fall apart. Like that's the problem here that people don't get. Hold on a second. But like a lot of cowardly men come to build cult of personalities off of black male failure. I just went through that earlier. But they can't really debate their points in the wide open. This is why they go to protected spaces and they hide behind women because they can't really debate their points of view. They can't debate their points of view wide open. Like there's no well demonstrated reason why a 60-something-year-old dude is in the place called the Manosphere if they're actually are off the market. Like there's no reason for that. There's no reason for the prophet off of our thought series is in the Manosphere if he cares about black boys and all this kind of stuff, but never wants to talk about his personal situation at all. I do nothing but talk about my personal situation. Now, I don't have any kids. I don't, because I don't think this is a place conducive for me to raise kids. If I wanted to have kids, I would just get her ass impregnated and send her ass back off to a host country, so that way my kid could be raised over there. I could produce over here. The culture raised them under a specific type of system that respects men and respects productivity. I wouldn't want my kid anywhere near this type of shit over here in the United States. I would never do that. That doesn't make me a lesser man. Like you could plan these things out if you're a dude who cares about outcomes. But if you don't care about outcomes, you leave it into the actual counterpart's choice within the United States. That's the thing. And they talk all this shit behind closed panels, but they can't really come out and debate their actual issues and topics. This is what makes these dudes clowns and failures. And I'm not talking about failed men because they failed in a marriage. I'm talking about failed men because of the things they talk about. I'm talking about failed men in the things that they keep up. I'm talking about failed men in the nonsense that they keep going over and over again. This has nothing to do with the household. Because if you have your household straight, there is no way you can turn around and try to do all this stuff outside of that completely figured out environment. So you guys have to recognize, man, that whenever you put these people feet to the wall and actually make them actually defend the points of view that they have, they really can't do it Because at the end of the day, they settled. The men settled here. They have no cultural control over the household, which is fine. But at the end of the day, you have to make these dudes prove their point about how they win it. Why do you have disaster teachers here still within the Manosphere? Why do you have them here? They're 60-some years old. They can't date any women inside of the environment. They can't do it. So if you can't date the women that are actually here within the environment, how do you care about making women's channels called BGS for women? Like, why would you do that as the guy who cared about male success? So now you have older individuals who don't even give a shit about black male success claiming that they care about black boys. They claim that they brought PhDs here. The PhDs are doing the same stupid shit that most of these other people are doing. Building a cult of personality off of collective black male failure. That's what they're doing. And not taking a side when it comes to real issues. They're not doing it either. So why are the failed men here? Why are they here? Why? Why are they here? Why are they here? So you just can't ask any of these specific and particular type of questions? Why are they here? If they won, why are they still around dudes that are failing? Like, okay. When I was in the military and there was basic training, the basic training was actually based on the simple fact that they wanted the people in basic training to be at the actual level of competency that the people who was training them was being at once you graduated. Right? Okay, so you go through basic training, you go through the actual police academy, you went to ground combat school, that's what it was called back then. You went through night fire training, you went through a whole bunch of things, but at the end of the day, it was guiding you toward a specific point to where you would be able to take on the environment once you got there. Can you really say the same thing if you whiteboarded the black men, the older ones, who are talking about things within the environment itself versus what we have here? Can you really say that that's the case? You can't say that that's the case because it's not possible that that's the case. Because most of these men who are here, they made damn sure that people like me never existed. They made sure that the actual children that was raised within the environment itself never would meet men like myself until they already had damaged and destroyed all of their chances within life. I understand that they're like, oh, okay, well, your marriage means less because you're not married to anybody who has been raised under these specific and particular circumstances. You're right. It doesn't mean that it's the same thing. Why? Because I'm married to a culture that actually wants to make sure that they care about the success of how this thing turns out, both man and woman, both child if it's actually born in that culture. How many people have you been raised around within this environment who actually watched you go through the shit that you went through, who said nothing to their daughter or son, who put these women or these men on each side of the level about what they went through? What woman actually went up to the actual man and said, you know what? You shouldn't be trying to go through your whole phase in your late 20s, in your late 30s, in your early 40s. This is a decent human being here that you're actually dealing with. The decent human being who you're actually dealing with, you may want to keep this person around. That's on the woman's side. On the man's side, this is actually a decent woman that you got here. You need to make sure that you're not trying to go through this whole phase as an adult, because if you end up getting this person pregnant, you're going to be stuck with them forever. You know how the laws are within this country, right? Laws are in the country that if she decides to walk out of this relationship, and definitely if you do, this child's not going to be raised to be individual that's going to be able to survive within the environment itself. You do know that, right? That's the type of system we have here. You do know that, right? You do know that. Let's say those conversations never happened because they didn't. Not because the people's inability to chase sex or women to chase the right guy. Let's say that nobody was created in this environment to care about those things on each side of the scale. Let's say that the woman wasn't taught that, you know what, because she went through the same shit that her went through, you know what, you should try to get the best man that you possibly can. And you know what, you ain't got to do anything else in society because there's going to be a group of men who you left out of the conversation who's going to turn around and clean this shit up later on. Because that's the conversation that was happening overall. And you didn't need to be raised under this type of system to know that you can get away with this shit on the woman's side. Meanwhile, on the man's side of the table, the dude that they use to actually have control of the environment itself, the dude who claims they're winning at everything in society, who come into the manosphere crying about fucking child support and shit. Let's say that the men were never taught to, dude, if you pick the wrong person, you can be stuck with this person for 20 to 25 years on top of creating a life within society. I'm not even sure who blocked you in the first place. That's why I had to go back and unblock everybody, Smirgo. I'm not even sure who blocked you in the first place, but I did see your name on the list. So you have to understand that in a society where people were not prepared to meet each other in the middle, there's going to be a lot of people who's left behind on the outskirts. I guarantee you that me and Abe A has the same type of circumstance. Went to another culture, there was a certain group of type of person whose culture to stay with a person during a specific outcome. I guarantee you that's the case. Because I don't think that's a dumb guy either. I don't like him, but I don't think he's a dumb individual. He sees what's here. No, but somebody did block you though, man. They blocked your ass a long time ago, and I don't even know what the fuck you could have said to me that actually would have made me want to block you. Like that's the problem. Like there's a lot of people who have wrenches who just block people, and I don't even know that's the case until I go through it. That's why I had to damn near unblock everybody, except for like Gay Bay, fucking Platinum Elite. you know, who's this other 50-year-old guy? Some guy who claims he's prettier than everybody. Dudes who I don't need to talk to. But it's just that that's what happens when you give people wrenches and they don't like you in other places. They come here and block shit. Yeah, that's what happened. Surdism, that's the other guy. There's no need to talk to these failed men. Yeah, somebody had blocked you too, Ayo. Yeah, I didn't do that shit. I don't even. If there's people that I won't block, most of them I don't. I didn't even know Sexy Red was blocked, or most of these other motherfuckers were blocked in the chat. So that's what it was. So you have to understand that if you are married and you come to a space called the Manosphere and you're off the market, like you claim that you're off the market, there's no reason for you to keep up fuckery and bullshit. There's no reason for you to do that. As a man who is off the market, who claims that he has this stuff under control, who claims that he's not dealing with this stuff on a day-to-day basis, you got to make sure that you got a smooth-ass track record when it comes to shit. And I would expect men who are actually married to somebody within this environment here, not another culture, they would be far more able to snap at the dudes and not even put up with the nonsense from the dudes here within the space who don't want to be dealing with this culture than people who are not. But see, you don't have that happening. Like most of these people, like BGS It More, the Prophet of Thought series, they want that cult of personality. They don't want to defend why they're here. They don't want to defend the track record. They don't want to actually be on the record of actually explaining what they're doing now and what they're going to be doing 6 months from now. The PhDs don't want that shit. The PhDs came here to talk about relationship bullshit like the rest of these non-productive ass men around here. They're doing the same shit. Listen, if your track record looks like a goddamn feminist that you claim that you don't want to be with, then you're just as much of a failed person as a man as she is as a failed woman. But here's the thing. She can't be that failed. She has government power. She has people who's trying to get her actual vote. Do you have it as a man? No. Want to know why you don't have it? Never tried to get to be a part of the process yourself. Never tried to do it. Never tried to do it. And they know that most of these people around here is trying to get live enough to get their shit off rather than actually make sure that their shit's actually succeeding. That's why the failed men filed into the Manosphere. That's why they want to talk about women. Because here's the thing. The opposite of getting your shit together as a man is talking about women. Because your job as a man is to get your shit together, be productive within the environment, and leave unsuccessful and productive people alone because of their track record, cultural and otherwise. Your job is discipline through this point of view. But most of these failed men within this actual space who settle for something that they shouldn't be around, who failed at something that they shouldn't be around either, they want to make you seem like being around XYZ type of person is the reason why your ass is actually here. That's why the failed men are here. That's why the failed men want to speak. That's why the failed men don't want to prove what the fuck they're doing inside the environment because the failed men just want to have the conversation. They want to have the conversation about failure. They don't want to talk about the process of failure because the process of failure is very easy. You didn't focus on what you were supposed to be focused on. There are people within this environment today, still on the wrong path, still showing up to the relationship conversation, which has nothing to do with black male productivity, has everything to do with black male guaranteed failure. And it's not a black male problem. It's a Latin man problem, white man problem, Asian man problem, India from India man problem, all that shit. If you tie yourself to the wrong type of outcomes, you're going to lose. Period. You're going to lose. Every single time you're going to lose. If you're not politically invested or involved, you're going to have to hold up a narrative that you don't know shit about. You don't know the history about it. While complaining about people who actually get their actual things to the political process. Oh, I don't want to talk about my private situations at all, man. No, man. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Hey, no, that's all you guys should do that. I don't want to do that. You have to realize that they're here to watch you fail. They're here to watch you fail. That's exactly what it is. These dudes made a deal. They made a deal that they shouldn't have made. And now they're using the Manosphere to do exactly. That was going to be my exact point. Even though I don't think Abe A is in the same boat as most of these dudes on the panel lying about the shit. But at the end of the day, people who don't have a drinking problem don't end up in AA. People who don't have a narcotics issue don't end up in Narcotics Anonymous. They just don't end up there unless they have a problem with a specific substance that they see being abused on a daily basis. Why are they here? If things are going so perfectly for you, then why are you here? Yes. I see the same thing on a daily basis. I'm not going to run away from it. I know what I'm looking at. but also looking at it on the other male side too. I'm looking at the male side of the shit that I didn't understand the woman's point of view on this phase. A lot of people want to get themselves together and go through this whole phase in this type of environment where they're not going to go through any consequences for all these women that go through. Younger men ain't coming to the space. Younger men have moved the fuck on for the most part. Most younger men are not here to learn from these dudes. Dude, they was raised not around these dudes. Younger men are not here. Younger men are not here. Not by the analytics. Not by nobody's analytics. If you look at most of these people analytics, I'm talking about the people who are big here in the space, most of their analytics have to deal with boomers, Xers, and millennials. There ain't no young ass people who's trying to listen to this shit. There ain't. There's a lot of people who want their confirmation bias verified through this actual process. You have to look at where the numbers are. You have to look at that. They're not here. They're not here. I guarantee you they're not here. Any video, you can look at, I mean, there's not a lot of tools that you need to look at who these people are. I'm talking about the core issues of what the Manosphere is about. These are about older people who are talking about it and act like they're not a part of it, to younger people who don't have any experience. That's what the circumstance is about. Truly about. It isn't about anything else. It's not. And most people are just too stupid to even be a part of the conversation itself. That's why they do all this trolling and all this other fucking stuff, stupid ass shit, because they don't want to solve any type of problem themselves. They want to be the problem, but not be pointed out as the problem. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, dude. If you look at, like, okay, go to these outside of your situation. You go to these college campuses. Most of these dudes are not even listening to these older ass fucking men. They're not. That's what I'm saying, Red Pill Finance. That most dudes' eyes are already open. That's why they're not around these older ass dudes. You have to understand, man, like, I'm an Xer myself. I had to stay the hell away from black culture because I knew what the guaranteed outcome was a long time ago. Before I even graduated high school, I seen the shit going down in my entire city. Multiple cousins dying over bullshit that they didn't need to die over, and all this other stuff. And the people who actually wanted to get the lesson at a younger age in the X range, they got it. And this wasn't from boomers. These were from older Xers. Way older Xers than I was. No, before I understood the generational divide and what the years were. But yeah, this was going on from people that were even 4 and 5 years older than what I was. They were still Generation Xers, but they still had a bad cultural output that they wanted to be around as an actual verification of masculinity. Yeah. Dude, you one of the young OGs who figured this shit out. Dude, you one of the young OGs who don't have any experience with this fucking bullshit, who could just move on to other things that are better. That's the problem. You have to understand that most of these older individuals who don't want to debate shit, how many of these dudes who are so fucking successful that they don't want to debate shit in the wide open? Why don't they don't want to debate nothing in the wide open? How come they don't want to debate it? How come they want to build a code of personality off of dysfunction but don't want to debate into a natural solution? Say it again, man. once you abandon guaranteed failure, you're going to be, it's not even a problem for you. You literally have to go out of your way to deal with these type of people to have these outcomes. Those people have outcomes if them children wasn't raised behind it, like your age. There are other, you have so much more information that is real world, that is actionable, than people that my age can actually tell you about. Why? You had homeboys that you actually raised around, or actually dealing with this actual situation. You actually was raised around this shit. You was raised around it. What they're here to do is they're here to guide men into deliberate failure and have conversations on panels where they won't let nobody up to actually saw their heads off. They're here to do that. That's what they're here to do. They're not here to solve anything. Because the only thing you have to do is look up their video track record and see that they're not here to solve any problem. Most of these people have been here for a while. Here's the thing. If you actually solved your own problem through productivity, dude, you know all that swag and shit, like, dude, you're never going to be able to best that type of system. You're never going to be able to do it. Success now, like right now, when there's actual processing and procedures on damn near everything to get to the result, dude, going the swag and the clout route is a dumbass idea right now. That's where you know you're dealing with somebody who has an outcome based on uncultured women. Is they still talking about uncultured women outcomes that verify them? They don't talk about shit that verify them as a person. That's why the failed men are here. The failed men are here, especially the ones who claim to be married and happily married. Why are they here? Why are they here? He actually did. You remember that speech when he went over to actual Mecca and he met white-skinned Muslims and realized that the problem wasn't white people, it was white culture once he came back? That's what happened when he came back. He realized that it wasn't all white people everywhere because he went to places and he realized that people who had the same skin color that he was taught to hate actually treat him like a human being. That's what you're going to figure out the moment you leave all this black bullshit the fuck alone. The moment you start traveling and going to other places, you're going to see that. Malcolm X wasn't actually killed by nobody who was white. People who were white never had no access to that guy. That's what happened. But see, they don't want you to know that this isn't possible until you don't have the ability to fight against it for the guaranteed outcomes that you come across. Most of these people in this space are here to guide you into guaranteed failure. I would debate anybody in an open space about black boy failure, if that's what your issue is. Any PhD, any prison scholar, any guy who has a fake ass debate platform, anybody. How come they don't want to debate this shit? Why do they not want to debate this? And how you get there? Why would they not want to debate it? They don't want to debate it because they're not trying to fix it. That's not the case. Look at Theo Waff. He's supposedly a highly productive man, but he's trying to get the respect of niggas and maggles and entertainment motherfuckers. So guess who he's spending his money on for clout? Those type of motherfuckers. Yeah, you can still make that same mistake even if you have your shit together. It's not really that hard. It's very specific. It's very particular. You have to understand why the failed men are here. Bro, listen, they're here to make sure that you go right into this shit. There is no reason for 50-year-old fucking men to be talking to 30 and 35-year-old fucking dude. There's no reason for 50-year-old men to be doing that shit. 50-year-old men should have a track record of fighting for actual things that they're trying to lead people into, not trying to talk about shit that they're trying to lead people into. How many times have I blamed a woman in this conversation? It's been 30 minutes. How many times I blamed a woman for that? Disciplined men ain't even trying to blame women. They can skip over obvious problems and obvious results and obvious other shit. They can skip over that shit. But if you're a guy who's trying to get your masculinity verified through such a progress or process, you're going to bow down to that shit. And after you bow down to it, you're going to come to a space that is actually set up to where you can get your shit off about the things that you should have left alone. This is why you can't argue with a guy like me, because I already know how this shit works from beginning to end. You can't come up and like actually defend this shit without sounding like a Bravo Alpha November. You can't do that. You can't do it. They're trying to survive. And you know how you survive? Staying away from it. Stop trying to look at her like a sexual scavenger that you can just walk in and get some sex out of her. Not in a situation where they got this type of power. That shit don't make no sense. This is why I say you can give an actual feminine woman to an actual productive dude, but you can't give a productive dude to a feminine woman. I say that. I say that out loud. If they wanted to be around high quality people, they would have got their shit together and kept it together. You even have dudes who make millions of dollars a year, these rappers and people who play sports. They get their money shit together and then they turn around and they deal with the same women. Why? They think they can pay for this shit on the back end. You're not gonna be able to beat the system, man. You can't. Can't beat the system. The house wins all the time. The house legally wins. How many times have you seen a casino hit a $1 million or $10 million payout for an actual slot machine? The casino takes the person to court, and the casino wins the actual court case based on the simple fact that you wasn't supposed to win. We know that you got a big payout, apparently from the system, but the way the system is set up, we can claim that there was a failure in the system. Your ass was never supposed to win that type of money. That's the same way this late count bullshit is. It's the same thing. People who got the shit for real are going through for real ass consequences. Boom. That's exactly what it was. It was a glitch. Even though you walked into a casino to win, they'll claim it's a glitch. Because they're not trying to have you get their shit together, man. They're not trying to have you get their shit together. They profit off you not having your shit together. That's how come they can't debate it. They can't debate the shit. Why would they debate it? Why would they debate? Why would they walk into a specific situation that they would lose 100 out of 100 times? That's what they do. There is two things, and there is a actual opposite to that. You cannot justify a post hoc rationalization, but there's another part to that. You cannot justify a opposite of that actual conversation, because there's another part of that conversation that is not talked about on top of the post hoc rationalization. Because every man that's actually failed within the environment are making post hoc rationalization arguments. The game is a post hoc rationalization argument with no proof. It's a presuppositional argument. Hold on a second. Let me put that in the chat. You need to understand what a presuppositional argument is. A presuppositional argument is an argument that is assumed to be true before you actually walk into a situation. And it is just as dangerous as a post hoc rationalization. The presuppositional argument is game. That's the presuppositional argument, that you're going to be able to work out enough, you're going to be able to put yourself in a position enough, you're going to be able to get your money together enough in a position to where you're not going to have these outcomes. That is a presuppositional argument, and it is not hard. But the presuppositional argument is just as dangerous as the post-rationalization argument. They're both the same thing. When there's failure, blame somebody else, not blame yourself, because you have the actual vision to know and see that you're not going to get out of these situations by feeding yourself immediately into them and expecting for the consequences to treat you better than they actually have treated the other people who went through it. The only thing they're doing when they tell you to practice more game, get yourself together, all this shit, is by putting you on a path that's not going to produce an actual result. How come you think they can't debate it in the wide open? Why do you think that they don't want to answer the question? They depend on your failure in order for them to move forward. That's how this works. That's how this works. If the presuppositional argument worked and the post hoc rationalization argument worked, they would be able to make this argument in court and on a one-to-one level, nearly 100% of the time, get custody of their kids and make sure that their lives are not destroyed productivity-wise. If this stuff worked. So you have to ask yourself, why isn't the man who figured this stuff out on camera telling you that they figured it out on camera? Why are they on camera? I'm not talking about the dudes who look like Rick Ross and all that kind of shit. I'm talking about actual real individuals on a day-to-day basis, city by city that you go through. I'm talking about real people who've went through this stuff and succeeded. Because when you don't have a level of success, they try to send you back into the game with worse equipment than what it did to take you out of the game in the first place. Not understanding or knowing the simple fact of function that these individuals have not succeeded for it either. They have succeeded just so long as the person haven't cashed in that lottery ticket that they hold. That's why you have guys here who made it look like being a street dude somehow worked out for them. That's why you have dudes out here acting like some fake political consultant is all worked out for them. Now, I used to be in IT 20 years ago. I used to be in IT, not now. But that's how this stuff works. They can't come to the space. They can't really provide information. They can't really come here and provide a result that's going to something they need to be actually responsible for. They can't do any of that. You want to know why they can't do it? Failure is expected. Failure is 100% expected in a space like this. Failure is expected. And I agree. Even putting myself in somebody else's shoes, which is what you have to do the majority of the time that your ass is here, you have to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Why would they walk away from the deal if it's good? You have to put yourself in those circumstances. You have to look at this. You have to see this yourself. You have to look at it. It's not hard. It's very easy. It is logic. It is impenetrable. You cannot get your way out of guaranteed consequences. There's no way you can do that. And most of these men are failed men. That's how come they don't want you examining their personal shit. I don't have a problem telling you that I'm married. I don't have a problem saying that. But I also don't have a problem saying that That shit, and I have no intentions on going back into this failed circumstance trying to make this shit work. It's both of those things. I'm not going to defend it. I'm not going to hide the consequences of it. I'm going to talk about it openly. How many people who claim they got this shit figured out who want to debate it openly? Where are these personnel? Where are they? You mean to tell me that you have a whole black manosphere and there ain't none of these? Oh, they only want to go talk about it on the breakdown, a woman's perspective. They don't want to talk about it anywhere else but a woman's breakdown, the woman's perspective. They can't talk about it outside of that. Are you serious? Are you kidding me? Strong strategy. How is it that you have failed men and men no experience at the same starting point? Why do you have PhDs, fake ass street dudes, ex what do you call them? Pimps now. They're street, ex human traffickers and failed prison scholars. Why do you have all these people in the same space if there ain't a problem overall? Why do you have all these people in the same space if there are no problems? Why are all these different groups of men in the same space talking about the same issue? Yeah, players too, so-called players. Why do you have all these people in the same space if failure isn't expected? If failure isn't expected, if coping with the actual circumstances of failure isn't what you need to do, like why, where's the success point? Okay, so let's say that you're looking at this on a line graph and a bar graph, and you have a line point that is aiming down below the negative, heading towards consistent levels of systemic failure. So let's say that it's going down. So you mean to tell me that success needs to go through the path of infinity to come out at the part on top where it's actually successful itself? How does that work? How does that work? When has a path of linear regression came out to a path of progress? When does that happen? When does it happen? Show me the line graph from linear regression to progress. Show me that path. You have to understand yourself that you can dodge all of this. They're not talking about success within the system that they claim to be a part of on a one-to-one basis. They can't show you the entire system from beginning to end. They're trying to get you to turn something or flip something from one thing to another thing. They're trying to get you to flip hoes into feminine women. They're trying to get you to repair people who have all type of issues into a person that don't have it. That's what I'm saying. I'm simply saying that because you need to understand how this stuff works. So that way, when you're looking at a person that you think is a leader have a track record. I'm telling you, man, they're going to get the biggest spatula known to mankind. The spatula the size of a goddamn back of a goddamn pickup truck. And they're going to flip this motherfucker into some shit that it ain't. Don't get me wrong. Women try to do the same shit too. They get this non-productive motherfucker and they try to flip this dude into a productive dude. It happens all the time. But a woman's not going to be held responsible to the actual decisions that she makes in her actual environment like a man is. Nobody's going to feel sorry for a man when he's trying to do this shit. There ain't no movies that's actually tailored toward men actually having sympathy for doing dumbass shit that they shouldn't be supposed to be doing. You don't have things like that in society. Don't think it's to fail men. Don't think it's to fail men. They gotta have people who believe this shit. They gotta have people who want to act out this stuff. They gotta have that. That doesn't have to be you. If you were smart, like I was smart, I looked through all these paths of infinite potential. And like, dude, I'm not trying any of this. I've never seen nobody flip this. So I'm gonna choose somebody within this environment who keep trying to make it work. And I'm gonna turn around and go around and try to make something work somewhere else. And I'm going to compare the results, one versus the other. And you know what I found? I won. WON, without niggas or their women. Yeah, not hard. Who wants to teach you this? They don't want to teach you that. They want to teach you about this expected level of failure that you have to go through. And it's not just black people. Dude, everybody's going through the same shit. I got white uncles who teach their white children the same dumbass shit. Black uncles, obviously to marriage, who they say son or daughter the same exact shit. I could talk to them through Xbox Live and get them on a better path. They parents think they're doing an outstanding fucking job. The only things I've ever done to these children is got them to invest in their actual outcome by leaving bullshit the fuck alone and actually explaining to them the logic behind their parents' failed propositions that they're giving to children. It's not hard. Not hard. Not hard at all. But see, you gotta want to get through these things. Do you want to see what life is like on the other side of leaving this shit alone? That's what the message is about. That's what my channel is about. What does life look like after you leave this shit alone? What does it look like? What does it look like after you leave it alone? What does it look like to have things on a one-to-one basis or significantly less than a 500 or 600 deal? Like, what does it look like? This is why real passport bros and all this shit, dude, we're not even online arguing with women. Period. We're not arguing with women. We're stopping men from slandering our names and trying to make it look like our actual masculinity need to be tied to the actual pipeline of this person's respect. That's what we're here fighting. But trying to fight for the way to go through the same shit they went through, no, we're not trying to do that. Where's your arguments? I think your argument's so good, you should be able to debate it in the wide open. Here's one thing you're not going to be able to do during the Manosphere. You're not going to be able to hide behind black boys like you give a damn about black boys as you claim to be. Hide behind black boys so that way you can hide the actual fact that you don't really care about these people overall. And you're going to use the children to do it? Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Out of here. I debate them. BGS Hitmore, Edward Anderson, Art Newstall, Green Gorilla, Tia Son Johnson. I would debate anybody about the actual future of what's so-called called our people. It's not my fault that you took the path of a black feminist and depending on the actual ways of these things remaining the same and intellectualizing actual set forth statistics to try to get people to close in on something that don't work. Oh, I could defend my points. My points are based on leaving this thing the hell alone and getting your own stuff together. It doesn't worry about the failures of the past. Because when you worry about the failures of the past and not take actions in the present, you know what you actually do? You become the new failures. You become the new failures. specifically so. And you have to keep the lid on this lie going like all these other failed men have to do. They all have to do the same thing. They got to keep a lid on this thing. They can't tell you that they didn't have an extra choice, that they didn't actually go through and actually do on their own self. They didn't do that. They did it on their own. They did it on purpose. They did it because they didn't care. So many happily married men, no path. Where are these happily married men with a path? Where are their paths at? Where are their actions at? What are their intentions? Are they really intended to have this conversation over and over and over and over and over again forever? How come they're not doing that? How come they're not actually fixing any of the things that they claim that they're actually in control of? You have to realize and understand that you are the OGs here. You have already outpaced these people here who are stuck. You don't have to wait till you're 50 years old and turn around and talking to young ass women about shit that you can avoid. You ain't got to do that. You got the best chance and opportunity to do the shit right now. All you got to do is leave this stuff alone. Nobody's teaching you about stoicism. What's going on, Casual? What's going
on? Hey, what's up? Happy New Year, MOT.
I don't hear you. I don't hear you at all.
Can you hear me now?
Things lighten up, but I don't hear you. So unmute when you think you got the thing controlling your other side. But that's where we are, man. Oh, well that's on me then. Unmute.
Hey, what's up?
Open up another window, man. That's on me.
You hear me? Hey, talking right now. StreamYard's picking my voice.
Yeah, I'm back.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, Wack?
Doing good. Happy New Year, MOT.
Still here. What the fuck is going on, man? Yeah, that's on me. I'm not even sure what the hell is going on here.
Can you hear me now?
I do. No. It was an extra microphone that was plugged up. That was on me.
No worries. I just want to say Happy New Year's, man.
Oh, yeah, same here, man. Same here, man. You know, we're going in a different direction, and these older dudes have got to start explaining themselves. Because we're not going through another 5 or 10 years of talking about women and not really having any type of outcome. It's time for them to start. You know what? If you think that you're gonna hide behind black boys and all this kind of shit, okay, all right. You know what? Your actual track record better reflect it.
Yeah. I just hopped on. You made a really good, really interesting point about other communities also being affected by dysfunction as well too. And the best thing we could do is, rather than taking the advice of some of the guys in the space, is just walk away. If you know your life is going to be ruined by doing something, then why bother doing it?
Yeah, and like our movements, no matter what it is, it's not about hating women. It's about hating bad, deliberate outcomes. Like all these things actually get caught up in the wash. You know, you got a whole bunch of people like Trader MBD who did a what do you call it? SYSBM, what do you call it? A Telegram group, even though he's not part of the movement and all that kind of other shit. It's like these are the people who come in, crash movements, don't understand the actual tenets of things that are going on, and then all of a sudden create their own idea off of it. You know, there's like a WhatsApp group. I'm not even engaging with none of those people. Dude, at the end of the day, man, you got to build your own stuff. You're still responsible for your own outcomes. You know, no woman is responsible for your outcomes. You're responsible for it.
one thing I really respect about you, MOT, is you're SYSBM to the core, and part of being SYSBM to the core is accepting that you shouldn't be involved with people that only mean to harm you. So if you know that something's wrong, if you know that the ecosystem is toxic, then you don't have to do anything to get yourself into it. Getting yourself into the ecosystem, you know what it's going to lead to. So the best thing you could do is just pack up shop and go somewhere else. This isn't about hating people. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about convincing people. This is about black men taking agency of their lives and doing what's best for them, and not being another statistic.
Correct, because like the agency has been taken over by these failed men within the environment. They wanted to guide agency of men. They wanted to guide your agency. This is why when most failed men are cornered, they talk about how much access they got to women back into the past, and somehow you should make up for it in the present by cleaning up after they mess in the present and the future to make up for the particular point of view that you didn't have it in the past. It's like, bro, listen, what if people were concentrated on their actual career field and everything else in the past while you was out trying to get more ass than you wanted to? So if you're going to make the actual ability to say that you were the one who fucked this shit up in the first place, shouldn't you be the ones who are actually fixing this stuff? How does it even come to other men to fix it if you got all the ass in the past? If you hit it first, then you're responsible for it all the time. What's the problem?
Agreed entirely. And the guys that are bragging about doing well with women early in their lives, all they have to show for it is pain. Many of these guys are paying for children that they never see. So what was the point?
Correct. And most of these men, their children are actually in the Manosphere still trying to find answers to how they grew up and how these things actually unfolded. This is why the younger generation ain't really here like that, because they know the answer to the question for the most part. Now, the people who are actually here, who are actually young for the most part, are the people who's trying to level up through that actual system that they father and know through that uncultured system. So you have to realize that the failed men are here for a reason. They're here to make sure that you're not going to do anything else but what they've done here. Nothing else.
Agree entirely. What I you mind if I touch on just the overall state of the manosphere?
Go ahead.
All right. I think that there are two sides to the manosphere. There's the guys that genuinely want black men to have agency, to go on to live life, to go on and live fulfilling lives, and there are guys that are more interested in perpetuating the system. I watch pretty much everybody like during the day when I'm like just when I'm working, but some of the guys like I won't say names, but like the image guru, great guy, brilliant. He's done a lot to advance the space and particularly in the areas of recognition and branding. But I also feel as though he's also leading a lot of us to slaughter, because some of the advice we're getting, like don't be afraid to lose money by doing something with an absolute certainty of failure. That just doesn't make any sense. My objective is to improve my life, get things together. I'm not interested in revenge. I'm not interested in hating anybody. I just want to improve my life, and I don't want to. I really don't want to get back on the hamster wheel. And I feel as though you're the guy that really gets black men off of the hamster wheel by telling them, first of all, get your stuff together before you even complain, walk away, and then keep it.
Yeah, it's just that. I mean, if your idea of actual success has anything to do with upholding this failed system, I want nothing to do with you. I want nothing to do with the person. It's like, look, hey man, like we already have enough failures out here, man. Like we don't need additional failures to keep coming through this actual system, man. Like we don't need that. Like, you know what? The Manosphere needs like a re-takeover. That's why I'm taking this conversation offline so that way I can deal with, because most of these people in other countries, when I go to like people who I talk to who watch my streams and shit from places in Africa or Sweden or China or Japan, Philippines, Africa, they have the same arguments coming up with a minority of the women. And you know what's actually is the single focal point of all these dudes? They don't have their shit together as a dude. They can't buy themselves into higher points of society because nobody will allow them to be around their daughters and shit in other societies. And it's the same thing here.
That's a good point. Like a lot of the guys that are bragging about getting women in the community, many of these guys are older folks who haven't done anything with their lives. The people they've been involved with in the past haven't been the highest quality, and they're mocking the people who are walking away entirely and have the resources in order to enter other communities, and saying that these folks leaving are still part of the community and won't be accepted in the new community, and their resources don't matter. And they also want a value system in which black male productivity, black male sovereignty isn't respected.
So it's like, okay, so if you don't want productive men around, what's wrong with them leaving, man? So at the end of the day, if most of these older individuals don't have anything to bring to the table when it comes to talk about their own personal circumstance, like, look, I'm talking about my own personal shit all the time. It has nothing to do with women. Why? The culture of that culture already solved all those problems. I need to bring the productivity to the table and a place for her to fucking work. Once I do that, if I have any more problems outside of that, then the problem's me, not her.
That's a very good point. At work, what really boggles my mind is I work with men who are, for lack of a better way of saying it, they're borderline like have social issues in a clinical sense. But many of them are married to high quality women that the SYSBM folks would be they would be bragging if they had women this attractive and well put together. But in our community, what we have is a lot of men who are prioritizing charisma, they're prioritizing game, they're prioritizing nonsense, and what they have to show for it is much less. So they're saying that these values matter in other communities, but when you look at the guys that are doing well in the other communities who have families, who stay together, who have legacy, they're very different from the guys who are bragging about having it solved on this side.
Yeah. All right, let me address a question here. Maybe in here earlier. I talk about content creators. I'm not talking about the actual people who are here. I'm talking about content creators who are seeking to build a cult of personality, who don't want to debate shit. Because once you debate, you got to be actually responsible for your actual outcomes. And you're held responsible for the things you actually say on live streams. And the actual pathway that you actually set out to actually do things. So as you can see, we disagreed on a point, and we just actually explained our way beyond it. There was nobody really throwing nobody under the bus or screaming and yelling or any of that other stuff. That's what it is. So
are you thinking of debating these guys on your show, or like doing like a reaction stream?
Like, dude, it's always been open, but when you can't defend your actual track record on anything, the only thing you can do is hide behind an actual code of personality or an actual echo chamber. Because I'm gonna run these dudes off of talking about black boys. That's one thing you're not gonna hide behind. You're not gonna hide behind the youth and put your failure behind the youth, even though you never did anything to protect people from selling drugs in the actual community or making sure people actually pick productive individuals and we got these actual outcomes. One thing you're not going to hide behind, you're not going to hide behind these black boys. No, you're not going to do that.
I have an interesting question. Do you think that many of these folks that don't want to debate you, part of the reason why they don't want to debate is, well, I think you said this earlier, but they want to perpetuate the game? Because I've noticed both content creators and folks in the audience, sometimes the solution is very simple, but many of us really do want the game to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, most of those people do want it to keep going for the most part.
If I could ask, who's on your hit list?
There's no real hit list at all. It's just at the end of the day that it's more about concepts and outcomes, not really people. Because at the end of the day, if they have the things that they want, like, they will cover it later on after this is over with. So that's just where that's at.
I like it, man. Like in other spheres, like it's common for folks to debate ideas. Like you have a certain outlook on things, other people have another outlook, and it'd be good for the space for like yourself and some of these other folks to get together, not in a kind of like a shitstorm kind of way, but just more to hash out ideas so we could get people on the right path.
Yeah, it's just that worrying about women and their issues and the things that they actually damage and destroy within the environment, that's not even part of the message anymore. It's only part of the message that the people who jump off the cliff over views. We got whack ass black men who think that analytics equals success, not outcomes. We got dudes who pushing bullshit analytics as the reason why they should be doing non-productive things, not the actual outcomes of the actual people that they actually serve.
That's a good point. What would you you mentioned possibly just separating the space into two different sides. What like how do you think you'd how do you figure you would do that?
I don't think it's sides. I think I think that it's going Roosevelt. Happy New Year to you as well. I think that the actual it's about the content that you put out and the people who you intend to help. I think that the sides have been well defined based on how much you're able to actually feed yourself into the actual relationship issue rather than dealing with actual real issues in society and the environment itself. I think that the actual, if this was a zipper on a pair of clothes, one side and the other side have already done that through the actual people to whom they push the talking points for. Because there's a lot of people who want comfort over progress. Like comfort in a specific situation where you really haven't done anything, that doesn't make it doesn't there's really no type of investment and for somebody to provide you comfort in a situation that you shouldn't be in the first place.
That's a good point. I feel as though there should be not necessarily like a division of the space, but maybe a new term or a new space created specifically to address a more kind of pragmatic approach to these topics. Because when you look at the manospheres on both the white side and on the black side, you really do have too many men who are focused on analyzing the women. They're focused on changing the women. They're focused on describing women. But like what you're describing is a more pragmatic approach to things. Like society is going in the direction that it is, and if you don't want to be another cog, if you don't want to be paying for children that you may never see, is just maybe it's best to do what's pragmatic for yourself, whether that's going abroad or living monk mode or just living life on your terms. But I think that a delineation between the old manosphere and maybe a more pragmatic, um, um, self-interested, male improvement sphere might be a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, I already created it. I already have a site created. I'm just nailing out the actual details of what it's actually going to look like, and we're just going to go to a worldwide audience with a very simplistic message and try to get people off of what they actually see online versus what they need to be producing as a dude, and keeping away from the wrong people in society that they know that they don't need to be out there. Because a lot of people want to be verified through an actual process or program that isn't working for the people who claim that they're winning at it, because there's a lot of people who claim that, oh, well, I'm this, I'm that. I had access first. I'm like, dude, you're going through the same thing that these child support dudes are going through. So everybody can't be winning and in the same place where everybody's failing at the same thing. So it can't be both of those. Like both of those things can't be true at the same time. Let me go through this wacky word. Oh, comment. Yeah, these we content creators are more focused on their YouTube analytics, start talking about real impact in the real world. But most of these people are here for their own self-interest, which is, I guess, is okay, but I think you should still care about making sure that these people are in a better position going forward, because a lot of people don't want to even be one of those people who do that, but they want the actual mainstream views, the actual analytics that make it look like they care, but they don't want the overall responsibility of actually caring about other people. Like that's what it is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's just that, like, you can't have people who failed sniper school and people who actually succeeded at sniper school in the same unit. You can't have people who failed at the Navy SEALs and the people actually who went to the processing program in the same unit. Somebody has to be wrong in this circumstance. You have to be able to have a person who actually did it right versus the people who done it wrong. It has to be that way.
That's a good point. In the past, you brought up that I've noticed you're one of the few guys who actually just tells it the way it is and isn't afraid to undermine some of the more respected guys who have the analytics, who have the historical presence here. If they're saying something wrong, they're saying something wrong. And as black men, we really do need to start setting the standards, because some of the folks that we have in this space is just, it doesn't make any sense. The stuff they're talking about, who they are as a person, their track record is just inconsistent with self-improvement and moving forward with a topic.
Yeah, it's just that at this particular point to where there's really no reason to keep this up. We don't have time for people to go through the redemption arc right now. I don't want people to go through the redemption arc. Leading people into the redemption arc, which is game and all this kind of dumbass shit. You're leading people into the redemption arc. Yeah, it gets them access, but it doesn't get them control. They lose control in the format of trying to get simplistic access. And it doesn't work because the people who are teaching from this format also have failed themselves. And we can't really see this thing keep going through. I don't want people to be listening to somebody for 5 or 6 years before they figure out, oh yeah, well, this person was here for the money. I'm like, did you not hear that shit before? They was like, no, I never heard that before. I didn't even know that. I'm like, yes, this person has said this multiple times. And you would catch it whenever they try to force you past the conversation when it comes to actual progress. That's when you hear what their end goal is. A person tell you what their end goal is. They don't tell you up front, but they tell you when they're cornered. And a lot of people don't understand that when you are cornered, that's when you will actually say exactly what you're actually here for. And a lot of people don't want to hear that shit. And a lot of people was hurt over that. But you come later trying to ask me about things that you're trying to get other content creators to do. It's just not my fault. My message has been pretty clear across the board.
It's a good point. I think the person who said that this was about making money, eventually when they were cornered on the topic, then they fell back on, the way I took it's about the money was, I kind of took it like this is all entertainment, but they were only saying that because they were cornered on the substance of what it is that they were saying.
Yeah, but you have to realize that. Let's say that you went to a church. You went to a church for 20-something years, maybe 30 or 40 years. And you see the way that the church is actually changing into something that you don't want to actually for it to be. Let's say that you speak up as a member of that quote unquote church and say that, you know what, I don't want to be here anymore because this stuff is going into the wrong direction. And let's say that one of the new pastors come through and say, well, you know what, it's all for entertainment. I'm like, hold on a second. As a person who's been a part of this church for 40 or 30 something years, I don't think that's true. And if you think that's the case, I want you to bring your ass up on the live. Well, I want you to come up in front of everybody here in this church and everybody in the city. And I want you to say that we were never serious when we came here. I want you to say that. I want you to say that up front, out loud, in front of people. I want you to say it in front of everybody. I want it to come out of your mouth on a live stream that you ain't got no answers for anybody, and that the only reason why you were here, because all these people who were here for entertainment shit, they've been here longer than I have, right? So they just can't say that we all of a sudden were for entertainment when it was convenient. They were always here for entertainment from the first beginning. I want some questions to be answered. When did it become entertainment for a specific person? I want that question to be answered. I would love to have a live stream on that.
I don't even know why the heck you said that. That was probably one of the worst things he could have said for his standing. I really just don't get it.
I mean, but not everybody here has a problem with women. We have a problem with the outcomes that we're going to receive if we deal with a certain demographic of women. I think that message gets lost. And I've talked to several of these women offline, and they understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about their son, when I'm talking about their nephew that they care about, when they talk about, for some of these people, their grandson. They get it all day. But when it comes to men of a certain age that's going to be able to clean this shit up, they totally lose their minds and they don't understand what the actual topic of conversation was. The moment that it was people that they directly didn't give a shit about, they understood the fact that these people was going to clean up, and they were going to pretend like during the same conversation, by the way, that I'm going to deliberately misunderstand while we was talking, even though what I cared about was going to be fixed. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, really sad that like some of our folks are so primitive that like rather than looking at the substance of what's being said, like the only thing they have is just either trolling by saying that it's entertainment or it's about making money. It's not really about a goal, or attacking the or attacking the speaker. Like it's always one of those three things. Either they're going to say that you're just mad about the current about not being able to do what they did, as if they did anything good and as if they had positive outcomes, or they're going to say that it's about entertainment, don't take it so seriously, or some other really bizarre thing just to deflect from what we ought to be doing to improve ourselves.
It's just that. Hold on a second. It's like the question that Taboo he for some reason I'm misspelling his words, or maybe they're autocomplete. I need to turn this off. But there's nothing wrong with the black pill. You know, the black pill is, this is the situation. This is the way it is. This is how these people operate and act. You need to go find something else after you get your productivity piece away. Like most people want to be black pill without the productivity piece, just like people want to be SYSBM or passport bro without the productivity piece. You still got to have the productivity piece first. That's how you get to freedom. The fact that you want to leave all this stuff alone, that's one portion of it. The other portion of it is having the resources to actually move over these things. This is why I don't even talk about black pill or even most SYSBM unless somebody's slandering the movement or anything else. It's just that I am black pill. I went from the South. I went to another area. I seen different things, and I stayed with those things that I saw, even though I came back to the specific environment. I seen people who are still trying to level up through this actual environment, and it didn't work for them. Being in law enforcement, you see people get protection orders served on them, people going to jail for bullshit reasons. You have simp ass dudes who are talked into knocking somebody out, or hitting somebody with some shit, and they end up getting life in prison without the possibility of parole for a woman that they don't know, for the adulation of a woman that they don't know shit about. I've seen all this shit throughout my life. That's just law enforcement. We're not even talking about brothers' outcomes or cousins' outcomes or aunts and uncles, or comparing that shit. Like I've seen all of this, and it's like once you put all this stuff together, they better come through the door with a deal so good and a behavior pattern that's so well that they would never even attempt to try to actually compare themselves to other people within the environment, and they would never actually have you compare them to other people within the environment. But when you're saturated with so much choice, there's no way most people is going to be able to get past that. And I understand that. I do understand that. I'm not trying to get people to level up through infinite choice. You can do that. You can go work out, you can go buy all these clothes, you can go live in certain areas of town, you can go do all this dumbass shit. But that shit didn't help Dr. Dre. Did it? Dude gave up $100 million and half of his fucking net worth. Why? He was making music for these people, and it didn't help him. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really don't get hung up on the pill thing. I think I'm also not one of those people who puts down like the pills to describe like the various philosophies towards what's going on. But a lot of black men really want to they want to talk around the productivity portion of all of this. So it's easy enough to just first of all work on getting a license and then or a certification, get your money together, leave the ecosystem first of all, so you're putting yourself in a proper ecosystem where you're going to have better options, and then just work on not getting caught up in the same situation that you would have likely been caught up with in the old ecosystem that you left. It's that simple.
Correct. It's like look, I'm an atheist, but I was raised as a fundamentalist Christian. I live as a fundamentalist Christian. You know what's different between how I live and what I was raised by? Nothing. Nothing at all. I probably go to more church than my family probably did at any point in time that they was in the South. Why? I knew what I was there for. I knew I was there for the actual community and everything else. I understand the message of Jesus better. That I stepped away from it and actually understood what I was supposed to get out of it because I couldn't get that out of it because there wasn't men like my grandfather around. And I actually had to step away from it, realize who I was as a person, and then come back to it. That's what I think the pills are. The pills are like different versions of religion. Like the red pill, it has turned into a religion. The black pill doesn't need to be a religion because it's the outcome of choice. The blue pill is ignoring the actual things that are going on out here. It's like you have to realize that choice is more powerful than pills. Choice is something that is very deliberate, and the actual outcomes are very circumstantial. They can benefit you as a person. Like your choices isn't going to benefit the next person, but your outcomes are going to be obvious if you have them. Like there's no reason for people who have failed and not failed to be in the same place.
Yeah, that's
There's
one
no
thing
reason.
I've always respected about you. Like when you're describing the process, you really don't get too hung up on the gimmicky terms like the RP, the black pill, and all those kinds of things. You really just speak to what needs to be done. And I feel as though many guys in this space, they really do want to identify with something, but what it is that they don't want to identify with is moving forward, getting their productivity together, and not losing it, because you've described in the past that somebody had attacked you for not getting caught up in obviously in the community and like having a child. But your retort to this person was, you said that well, that doesn't mean that I've lost, it just means that I didn't get involved and lose a lot of my money to this nonsense. And like some people may describe that as black pill, but it's not about being black pill. It's about the idea. It's about not losing your money. That's the most important thing, not the pill.
Yeah, but it was black pill for their circumstance. Like the actual Boyce Watkins, it was black pill for his circumstance to wait on somebody for XYZ period of time because he had a choice to do that. He had a choice to wait XYZ period of time until he married the person that he wanted to marry. That's still the maximization of choice. Now, would I suggest everybody in the world to wait that long to actually be verified in the actual environment? You would never find that shit in Arab culture or Indian culture or Chinese culture or Japanese culture or any other culture that actually works. They're not going to make productive men wait that long to have a person that's marriageable age. They would never do. Like, you have to understand that if your society worked, productive people would be the people who they'd actually protect. But they don't protect productive people. They only protect the people who don't have their stuff together, who get to make all the mistakes. And that's not a society.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm in my early 20s, and I'm between Oklahoma and Vancouver most of the year. So a lot of the year, like during COVID, I work in Vancouver, but typically I'm in Oklahoma. And in Vancouver, we have a bunch of Indians working at the company that I work for, and these folks, they like at any given time, they're like two or three of them in India going to get wives, and it really isn't that complex to find somebody that's like that's decent. It's this isn't rocket science. Only in the black, only in the Western communities do you really see this this game where you have to wait that long. You have to use game, and like it's just a complete mess.
But there's a lot of people who actually want to make that deal for people who are like, okay, so a lot of people think here that they're going to be part of in our culture system, and they're going to be able to flip it into something else after a specific period of time. I'm like, dude, do you understand why there are older men here? They are here because they're still trying to flip this shit into something else after they had the kid. They're still trying to make it look like they never had that they never made a mistake after this stuff actually went wrong. Like, and they don't understand that if people have actually succeeded, there would be a success rate. But what you have is a churn rate. Churn rate is the opposite of success rate. A churn rate is failure. okay, for how many people who go in, how many people actually fail at this specific type of system. No one wants to talk about the churn rate. Everybody wants to talk about the one-offs and the things that work and my special ass circumstances and all this dumbass shit, but nobody wants to talk about the churn rate. Okay, okay, street culture. What is the actual churn rate of street culture? Damn near every person who got trapped into street culture has failed at it. Everybody, including the rappers and everything else. No one can say that this stuff has actually led to a beneficial, consequential conclusion. No one can say that.
Agreed. One thing I do want to touch on is much of the chaos in our community is also spilt over into the white community. I actually have a white gentleman living actually in my home, renting a room, and he was baby trapped twice. So, like, it's more of a Western thing. Is just like with anything negative, it tends to harm us disproportionately, and you know what's coming, you know what the statistics are, so it's upon you to do what's right for yourself.
I personally want the choice to be out there. I don't want the choice to not be out there. I don't want there to be less consequences when it comes to making a deliberate choice that you've never seen work out well. I'm not going to lobby ever for less consequences. I lobby for more discipline. More discipline don't cost any money. It don't require movement. It don't require you get people together. It don't require any of that stuff. And this is why I don't lobby for less consequences when it comes to dealing with those people. Because the people who dealt with those people, they come out here and brag like hell to people who don't have the quote-unquote experience. So I don't give a damn about people who are going through those consequences for the most part. I don't think they should be going through it. But should there be new people going through it? I don't think so. I just don't think so.
Agreed. I like that stream you did actually a couple of days ago where what was it? It was you hope they lose it all or something like that.
Yeah. And you have to understand why you have to say that that's the case. Because if a person is hell-bent and intent on going through things that they shouldn't have gone through in the first place, and you have people who want to still brag like they actually are making it through this thing, the only logical solution is step back and let this thing fall. Listen, when they put a cage on a trampoline, they don't have the expectation that you're going to jump into the other yard. They're going to have the expectation that you're going to stay into that cage that's around that trampoline. And if you jump your ass, if you go down too hard, if you go up too high, which is the actual control of the person jumping on the trampoline, that's on you. That's on you. It's not on the trampoline. It's made to go 30 and 50 feet in the air if you put enough force on it. But if you don't have sense enough to exit the stage at the point that you need to exit, that has nothing to do with the consequences of doing so.
I agree. Like I don't I don't hate women. I don't hate the people I don't want to live like. It's just I know what life looks like for me, and part of the reason why I put productivity first is when you're focused on productivity, you mitigate your likelihood of encountering these situations that are going to ruin you for life.
Correct. Because if you focus on the things you're supposed to be focused on in the first beginning, the fallout of the plan of the things that don't work correctly, it's not even in your purview. Like when I came back to the United States from Europe and traveling all those places, the last thing that was on my mind is trying to level up the Keisha situation. Now that I've seen a different system, been to Africa, seen a different system, and the actual brotherhood and the things that could actually happen when men focus on productivity versus sexual scavengerism, which is what this shit is actually based on here, you have a lot more in common with people who want to produce. You're not going to have anything in common if everybody wants to actually try to be a sexual scavenger within the environment itself. It has a lot of uncultured behavior associated with it. There's really no brotherhood that can be built beyond that, and I just don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I had the same experience going to both Germany and Japan, just seeing that well, obviously they have their rough spots as well too, but it's just their rough spots really don't look like our life's rough spots here in America. When men are productivity first, when male sovereignty is respected, when male choice is respected, then you end up with a kind of environment that works for everybody. That's the poetic thing about it. When you have those proper values, things just tend to fall into place.
And it's like, what woman has won from productive men who actually gave a shit about their kids and gave a shit about what they wanted to raise? What woman won? What woman would lose under a system like that? That's how most of this stuff works other places. Like, all right, so when I had to, when I had to make a formal proposal for the situation I'm in now, I had to go to her father. I had to go to our actual father, sit down with the actual family, and they wanted to go through the track record. Okay, so what happened here and what happened there and what are the actual intentions and what. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a cultural exchange. And in return, I get this. That's what it was. It wasn't like, I tried to go to a club. I tried to talk to her, catching her to the bathroom, and I tried to, game her up. And, we went to the Waffle House or the IHOP and shit, and I'd be able to smash. And she all of a sudden called me back and shit, and we was able to get along. There was none of that going on, man. There was none of that. None of that.
Yeah, to your point, what I found is, in my personal experience, dealing with a lot of the folks that don't like the SBM crowd and are more game oriented, the way what they want to convince black men of is other cultures don't respect our productivity because we're black. But obviously, racism still exists, granted. But you'd be surprised, even women from the most anti-black cultures, if you're a productive, level-headed, sensible black man, you could leave. It's not like they're not so anti. The culture may be anti-black, but they're anti-black because some of the cultural patterns that you see in our community. They're not against black skin. They're not against black people. They're just worried about some of the behaviors that we might introduce into their community. But dealing with you on a one-on-one basis, they'll accept you.
Correct. And these same people say this when they know this culture don't give a damn about productive black men, period. Right? So which one is it? You you claim that going somewhere else. I mean, it's just a form of gaslighting people and actually being politically ignorant to people who don't know the actual track record of what happens when you actually go around culture people. That's the problem. I mean, that's the entire problem within itself. Like, you need to understand that you go to another place, you're still going to be treated like a man. You're still going to have to bring the things to the actual conversation as a man. But here, no matter what you bring to the conversation or the situation, you still can be treated like a punk ass dude, no matter what. Doesn't matter what you bring.
Exactly. The productive black man is expected to be more of a clean to function in a more kind of clean up or subordinate role to more chaotic kind of a personality types. But if you go elsewhere where they put productivity first, the productivity is going to take precedent over your black skin.
Correct. And actually doing the productivity thing means that you give a damn about the family that you intend to actually create. That's what other people don't understand. That the productivity piece is going to help you create the family that you want, regardless of how they act. Now, how they act with your intentions, that is something that is socialized by culture. But your intentions of bringing productivity to the table, that is something that can be sussed out very early in the process. That's why when you're dealing with culture people, they like you can look at 90 Day Fiance, and they bring a dude from overseas who's trying to marry somebody in the United States. What's the first question out of their mouth? What do you do for a living, and what is your intention with my daughter or son? First thing out of their mouth, productivity. Do you have the ability to be able to speak the language and produce within the society, even if you don't speak the language? Right? So we have living examples in front of our face of how this stuff don't work out. And it's like 90 Day Fiance don't even explain how most of these outcomes end up in America. They have 90 days to figure each other out. Most of these people are just waking up to the fact that they got somebody pregnant and trying to work that thing out.
Agreed. When you look at many of those societies, it's not some of the detractors of SYSBM on this side will be like, well, they only want you because of your money. No, within their own culture, they only deal with men who are productive, upstanding, and have money. That's just what they're like. It's not about only being willing to deal with a black person with money. It's about that's the way they choose their own people.
Yes, correct. Hold on a second. File super chat. Why are they more concerned about foreign women taking advantage of you, but not how we are in danger to ourselves in the streets? Correct. I mean, like nobody's really talking about whatever this light skinned woman name who has been through the Manosphere and been talked about and nauseum. Nobody's talking about how she screwed over the current person that she was with, people she was with in the past, people she slept with in the past. Nobody cares about that. But if you were to take your ass somewhere else and not deal with this situation, like, oh well, you know what, you should have did something else. It's like it don't make any sense to me. It really doesn't.
Yeah, a lot of it is like you said. It really is just gaslighting. Like I doubt that the people that say that kind of thing in their own mind, I don't think they believe it. I feel as though a lot of the time it's like they're reading from a script because when you look at the comparison of, for example, how mothers are treating their black boys, or the fact that there are no men in any of these in most of these homes, then it paints a very consistent picture of, first of all, how they see productive men, but
Correct.
also how much male power that they actually want to have in this society. In no other society do they do they restrict young boys' access to education, productivity in the same way that we do in our culture.
Correct. Okay, so I actually seen this real time in my life. Like there were, you know, there are people who obviously got kicked out of the family, right? And there were people who actually stayed within the family, but they only could come around during Christmas. This is when you met the cousin. Like I didn't really understand how come we couldn't see these people throughout other times of the year. But I came to find out later, like once you're in the seventh or eighth grade, that's when you start to really know how family and family dynamics work. Like, oh, these people got kicked out the city, even though the kids were decent and stuff. They couldn't be around because they had like two different fathers or mothers, in certain cases, and it's kind of like you've seen it real time about the consequences of what happens when you fall out with cultural people versus uncultured ones. And not allowing a certain type of person to have choice within the environment was also looked upon as an actual failure of your masculinity by not quote unquote handling a person being able to go through and actually allow this person to have free reign within the environment to feed everyone else in it potentially. It made so much sense whenever I seen it because there was cousins that I saw earlier, seventh, eighth grade. But once I saw him by the time that, my father and my grandfather died when I was in like the ninth grade for the second time or even the 11th grade, because I went ninth, 11th, 12th, how differently they turned out versus people who was raised under that type of system. Damn, it made a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, like this is only somewhat related to that, but I noticed that a colleague of mine, a female colleague, there's one part of Vancouver where there are plenty more Indians, and another part where there are plenty more whites. And what they did during the pandemic was actually relocated closer to their community because they just have everything firing so well that as a means to insulating their children from some of the chaos going on in the world, they're working to all live in the same areas to reinforce some of the behaviors. So we need to do it within our own families, but we also need to do it on a concentric level at the level of organizing families into black neighborhoods and things of this nature.
Correct. And it's not even, it's just more of male leadership that is very deliberate versus trying to level this stuff into an actual social dynamic through something that you've never seen work before. There's like two different things that's going on here. It's like I want things to be a certain way because I can explain my outcome. You can probably explain your outcome. But when we're turned around and we're actually looking at people who only want to hide behind certain things, and you can't really have the conversation how you need to have it, because there's so much of this gray area that's put in the middle of what we're trying to do versus what they've actually done. Like, I could talk to these people offline. I probably could bring up most people and we can have a decent conversation on a one-to-one basis. Even if we disagree, we can still have a one-to-one conversation to where we're actually going to actually agree on something. And these things are bad. This track record is bad. We need to move toward a certain conclusion that makes some kind of damn sense. That's what I'm kind of at with it. And you can't do that if you're trying to concentrate on the versus conversation of which woman that you actually don't want to deal with at the end of the day, what she's doing so bad versus this other person. Both of these individuals can be left alone. Both of these individuals don't need to be concentrated on. Neither one of these individuals isn't anybody's future. Why are we even wasting all this time discussing this shit? That's where I'm at with it.
Sorry, can you repeat that the last one?
No, it's just that nobody wants to deal with these deliberate consequences that are centered around dealing around the worst type of people. So why would you center the conversation around those people if you don't want to deal with them at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's a good point. I find that even some of the more bright members of this space, they still do want you dealing with the same people. So we have the folks that are interested in teaching you the game so you could deal with the same person. You have the folks that are interested in teaching you to make more money so that you could lose it. Then you have the folks that are teaching you to self-improve in every other way so that you could end up losing in the same defective ecosystem.
But you have to understand that they're only covering those issues so that way it could be for their overall benefit in one way or another, right? Like, it's kind of like a hedge maze with one way out, and that way out has a whole bunch of pack of lions by it. While they keep you running, you think you're going to get out of this hedge maze, but the moment you reach that actual conclusion where you're outside of the hedge maze, you got a whole bunch of angry ass lions that are waiting for you at the bottom of it. And that's kind of what this is. But since people have foregone productivity and think that analytics is going to make up for productivity, that's kind of where we're at right now. So if they want to play the analytics game, good. I'll go pay some money. We can get thousands of people in here. And so that way they can be able to deal with that. But at the end of the day, we still need to focus on the things that we need to focus on as people. And none of this stuff is actually going to work if we're trying to put her first. Putting her first has nothing to do with productivity. It's the opposite of productivity.
Yeah, women shouldn't even be on your mind while you're struggling, while you're trying to put together your productivity. You need your productivity whether or not you have a woman. If you have the mindset that your productivity comes first for you, and then secondly, you have the mindset that you don't want to lose your productivity and get caught up in some of the traps out there, then yeah, that's the right way to approach this topic.
Correct. And we can approach the topic to having conclusion in the end that we can agree on. Having these other type of topics, there is never going to be an end to those actual conclusions at all, like ever. Because the only conclusion is tune in next time while we discuss the same thing next time. Like, no, we already covered that. We're not going through that. You already should know this by now. We need to move on to the productivity things. Like, what career field should you go into? What state do you want to live in? Can you live in this state for XYZ circumstances, even if you have kids? Because I tell you what, people came up during this actual pandemic. You know who came up more than any other group of people? Starts with the F.
F. Nope.
People with felony convictions. People with felony convictions have climbed into American society because people didn't want to go to work. I'm talking about trades. I'm talking about jobs. All these type of jobs they never got before in their life. Those people was waiting at the ready. And that is the demographic that has came up the most out of most of these people across all racial lines, people with felonies. Those people wanted to come to work when didn't nobody want to come to work. Those people did. And those people are out here, and you know what they did with their extra shot? They didn't waste it. They kept all the money. They got into these government contracts and all the stuff that they never were able to actually do. These people came up. And I'm proud of them dudes for stepping forward and waiting their actual turn and getting their shit together and having a clear ass track record and walking into an actual environment and explaining to people their actual past circumstances, and then they actually got that shit done. Yes, they did. Those people came up as a demographic and as a group. Those people came up.
It's pretty cool. I never heard about that, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's what happens when you put when you're focused.
that's what I'm saying, man. It's just that these things can change. It's just that it ain't gonna happen through other people's choice, man.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Who do you, if you can name one other person in this space that you that you feel gives the best messaging on the topic, who would you name?
Wayman Brown.
Wayman Brown? Never. Yeah, I've never heard him.
Yeah, I put his name in the chat.
Nice. I've been listening to Kosher Clinician. I feel as though he's very good at explaining some of these issues, but more from a clinical standpoint. And he tells his audience a lot that you don't need to be caught up in like it's okay to value yourself. And I feel as though he teaches Black men to have that mental kind of a preparation so that they value themselves and they know that they're not by themselves with some of these topics.
Correct. I mean, because these are American topics. People think that they're Black only. No, these are not Black only topics. You can go to your nearest trailer park or your nearest what you thought was the Black area of town, and these Latinos and all this, they're going through the same shit. Same exact thing. Not different. Same thing. Same reason, same outcome, same inputs that are happening over. Yeah. It's just that, yeah, that's what it is. It's just that a lot of people don't understand that I may be a Black person that they think are talking about Black problem. This is an American problem by itself. And this is why I say, as long as you have the productivity piece together and you deal with a cultured woman, you're gonna have a good outcome. But the opposite isn't true at all. And I don't know how to solve that. I don't know how to solve an issue of women being able to choose wrong over an actual period of time. Like, I don't know how to solve that issue. I'm not a woman. I'm not trying. I don't know how to solve that. I don't know how to solve that. I don't. I can just give the best information that I think is possible, but is that going to work through infinite choice? I don't know, man. I really don't know the answer to that question.
You know what's my favorite troll line? My favorite troll line is all women are going to think and act the same. So leaving this ecosystem doesn't help you because everybody thinks and acts the same.
Yeah, and here's the thing: it's like being in any police department. A bad police culture is eventually going to make every cop bad within that unit. Eventually, doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter what you believe. A bad culture within the police department is going to make everybody bad because you're going to meet bad people. You're going to see bad people get away with shit. You're going to see people who are doing a whole bunch of messed up stuff. Then all of a sudden they're undercover police officer and just all types of stupid shit. Like, you're going to see like so many people who should have been out of there years ago based on the culture of the department. And it's kind of like in most police departments, I say that the culture is as bad as 20 years beyond the oldest person within that department. These consequences that we're facing here are 20 years older than the oldest person actually within this environment itself. That's how granular this stuff is going to be through all generations, because all generations are going to be affected by it, because all generations have either been cultured by it, raised around it, or had to turn a blind eye to it at some specific point in time.
Yeah, here in Vancouver, you're seeing white folks overdosing. You're seeing them living impoverished. The Asians own the majority of the real estate here, and yeah, like we're not the only ones suffering from this. It's a general Western problem, but yeah, we have the most of the problem, but yeah, everybody's being affected.
Yeah, and most people think that if we just have a certain demographic of people discuss this actual issue and topic, that no one else is going through it. And I just don't think that's the case. It's just that a lot of people have to understand that these things are something that you can solve in your time with discipline, hard work, and productivity. I didn't say anything about swag game and none of this other nonsense. Those are words of uncultured men who want to uphold a system to where they think they're winning it. I want you to get your stuff together, so that way, even if you, I hope you don't do it, but if you end up in these circumstances, at least you can survive productively through these actual things. Even though I don't want you to end up there, but you can't control everybody's outcome. You can just control how they can approach to it. It's kind of like a par 3 versus a par 5. That's what it is. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you really have to. If you know what's out there, then you have to plan accordingly. Like the world's changed, and you have to. You really have to adjust. Don't mess up your life. One bad move will mess you up forever.
and a lot of these people think that the moment that they get their stuff together, it's the time to start making mistakes. I'm like, dude, that's when you witness your greatest falls, man. Like the second time I was home was based on some nonsense I got into that I didn't even see, and in a couple seconds I was homeless again, just like that. A couple bad moves, thought things were going right, things were going, and yeah, I ended up right back there, and that's when I thought I had quote unquote everything together. So it's like the more you move up, you're still going to have to be more disciplined anyway.
The more you have to lose, man, the easier it's going to be to fall and to fall hard.
Yeah. So I think we hit this target hard enough, man. You might be behind the scenes because I want to get that person on, the actual clinician. I was going to bring somebody on from the medical field, or some people actually who I dealt with in the military along with the topic, like attorneys and all that type of stuff right now. Thanks for coming to memory, Sir Anthony. Yeah, but it's like you need to bring other fields in here, the law enforcement, the legal field, the actual, the medical field, people who are verified and telling you that these things they're trying to steer you into is the bad and wrong idea. You have to bring in parents groups. You have to bring in a lot of things you have to bring in to make sure that these things don't happen, because we can stop these things from happening in our time. And unfortunately, we don't deserve to be trusted as a group. Look at what most of the people who are our age are actually talking about. You know what I'm saying? So you just have to be able to put the actual message out there that there are actually people actually making a counter argument to the things that are actually going on, and that we actually want to move forward. And the first things first is just letting people know that we don't hate what you think we hate. Yeah, people attach themselves to movements that they don't know anything about to get their stuff off. That doesn't mean that that's the original intent of the actual movement itself. I mean, you look at Christianity. You know what happened in the 1800s, 1700s? They used Christianity as an excuse to do all the stuff that they actually did. But when you actually got down to actual black Christians didn't even think that type of stuff that everybody else is thinking. So that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. And, I guess we reset the conversation to actually end the actual conversation itself and stop non-productive men from actually ruining and destroying the actual potential out here with our actual voice that actually can be used for good. But that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, same here, man. I like that the message is getting out there, even if I don't agree with some of the most analytic and the analytic guys of the space. But the fact that we're seeing PhDs come into the space, the fact that we're seeing clinicians, the fact that we're seeing lawyers, I don't necessarily agree with everything with the PhDs or any of these folks, but yeah, the fact that the message is getting out there and people are getting aware is just we have to move the conversation forward.
Correct. But once you move an awareness level to an actual level of action, that's when the actual conversation can move forward. Because it doesn't make sense to have PhDs and actual attorneys here if the conversation is still circularized around what XYZ, ABW have done during the day that we don't like, that we know that we shouldn't be around. Like, come on, man. Like, you're 50-some years old. You should have moved on to a different group of people by now. However, that's what you're going to have until you have a lot more people here. Because once you bring the actual mainstream of people actually here, because mainstream come with actual mainstream responsibility. Nobody wants to be responsible for the argument. Everybody want to make money off of it, but nobody wants to be responsible for the argument that's being made here going forward. Like, having a voice, you should still want to be responsible for what is said on live streams. You still should want to be responsible for the outcomes of things that happen after you actually talk about something. Someone actually need to actually point to something like, hey, man, you talked about this. What happened after you done XYZ type of thing? That's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah, agreed. Like some of the messaging, I just didn't know how comfortable you felt with like name dropping, but
Yeah.
some of the stuff you're hearing from some of these guys is just yeah, it really is like it's not advancing things, it's making it worse. I was just saying that at least it's the message is getting out there. But yeah, I'll grab your email.
Yeah, I mean, but the making things worse has a specific type of connotation to it as well. You have to understand that people listening to this live stream, people who are subscribed to the Manosphere, is still a very minute portion of the actual populace itself. Very minute portion. A lot of people don't understand these consequences or even the track record for the most part. But you can't claim that you don't understand the stuff after listening to a discussion like this. You can't claim that you don't do that. You can't do that after now. So
Yeah, do you think most like it's kind of a weird question, but do you think most of the audience to the channels in the space do you think most audience listens for entertainment, and how many of the what percentage would you well it's hard to quantify, but what percentage of the folks do you think are actually listening to improve themselves and really believe in the message?
well, I think you need to break that down a little bit more granular than actual just percentages. Okay, let's say for people who actually want help, I think it's actually 10% people want help, 90% of people are going to listen to the message. Entertainment, I think 95% of people want to listen to entertainment, maybe 5% people want help. And I think people who are kind of in the middle, who kind of bounce between every other channel, I think it's a 50-50 split on both sides. So I don't think one singular person is here for one singular thing, but they get everything once they come here.
That's a good
What do you
point.
think?
I listen to a lot of those like some of the channels that I don't agree with for entertainment, but in listening to all of this listening to this content, then I do make adjustments in my life even when I'm listening to creators that I don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah, it's kind of like what I started doing is I started having like one of my nieces and nephews like, okay, listen to this live stream, and I want you to write me a 2-page paper on what you think the problem is based on what this person is talking about. Go find me the statistics based on what this person is actually talking about. Do you think this person had any level of control over their outcomes and the things that they actually complain about? Especially when it came to women, because I don't think women have any right to be complaining about anybody. Why? Infinite choice. If you have infinite choice, there's no the only way you can damage infinite choice is that you damage it on your own step. You can't go around damage infinite choice and then just turn around and say, "Oh, there ain't no men for me." No, there ain't no men who's gonna turn around and do some stupid ass shit for you like everybody other men have done. But like the men, they 100% put themselves in this type of circumstance because the government is not codifying their actual decision making process. That's bad. The women are. It makes sense why the women would think that. But that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, agreed. I'm gonna drop down, man. But thanks a lot for having me on the panel. Hope to be here soon.
All right, no problem, man. Email me so that way I can get in contact with that doctor. I got about 2 that I'm going to bring on. But I'm about to get up out of here myself because I got to do some things before tonight live stream. So I want to thank you guys for coming through.
Thanks
And
a lot,
man,
Tim.
tomorrow, you guys have got to really understand that failed men are here for a reason. And it is not to help you. It is to guide you in systemic and specific failure. If you have this actual outcome that you claim that you have, there should be no reason on the planet Earth of why you can't explain your actual process to people. I've seen a lot of new people in here today. With y'all coming through, I'm the man tomorrow. Like, share, comment, subscribe. And you guys have a really nice day. I'll see y'all tonight. Peace. I got time today, folks. I'm not going back to work until April.